So I swore I was never going to do weddings. It's way more intricate sometimes than just corporate events. Corporate is handshakes and weddings are hugs. So
Yeah.
it is like such a different world.
Can you describe that moment of the first wedding that you handled, like right when the bride walks down the aisle?
I feel like I have the same feeling every single wedding now. Like it is the moment where every single ounce of planning, stress, anxiety, all the things that not only your bride feels, but yourself, because you
Hmm.
have such an undertaking for that, feels. And you get them down the aisle, you're with the bride and her dad or whoever is walking her down, and you're fluffing the dress and you're just like, all right, are you ready? It's your turn. And she's probably like, no, I'm not. And I'm like, you got this. And she goes. And it's just beautiful because you just see the crowd. Like, obviously, everybody rises and it's just so emotional. And I'm emotional. So it's just like the perfect combination. But it's just such a relief and a relieving moment because everything you've worked so hard for is coming to fruition right now, like in that moment.
Yeah, and going back to what you mentioned, I like the comment that you made. Corporate events are handshakes and weddings are like
Mm-hmm.
hugs. On
Yep.
your website, you talk about kind of establishing like a connection and like
Mm-hmm.
intentionality
Yeah.
between you and your clients, which turns into a friendship, I would say,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't even want to refer to them as like clients after this whole
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
um, so what do you do to kind of prevent those moments of emotional exhaustion?
Yeah. So being an event planner, and it still ranks as such, is the fifth most stressful job you can
Wow.
have. Just the hustle of it all. And again, like you're emotionally involved with these people. So I like I say on my website, I'm everywhere, like on my Instagram, like I try to be really genuine and real with all my clients. So that is how I can separate having like stress and anxiety with the client or the job or the business, and just being open with them. A lot of times people say no, put your like personal and stuff aside. I think that's kind of like an older um like
An older
mindset.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, because that I just don't, I can't, for me, I can't do that. Like it's just not possible for me to just see you as a client, and not somebody that's human and a friend almost, that because that's what we become all the time. I mean, half my brides, I follow their own personal accounts and business accounts and encourage them like we are married, we get you married, great, but like I still want to keep that going, and a lot of times I do. I went through a couple of things this year, one corona,
Yeah.
but all the COVID stuff, and just recently my grandfathers, both of them had passed away. I can talk about it without like breaking down now, but it was the worst time of my life, and I took a big step back from like posting or being active at all. But I didn't want to really make that like a big thing on my business side, like putting in an email like out of office kind of type thing. I just personally told my clients like, hey guys, I apologize for any like lack of response or like slower response times. Like this is something I'm dealing with and my family needs me and that kind of thing. So um for portions of the time I did have my out of office, so they acknowledge like, oh, she's going through it, like these things are happening, and they have all been the most respectful. So knowing, I think really kind of like your whole mantra, like we are human, truly needs to relate in our businesses, because that's what people want to see. And I feel like my business is really gearing towards like millennials and Gen Zs now that are like getting married at this point, and I feel like the modern world really wants to see the person behind the business. And if they know what they're dealing with, what they're going through, like they can empathize with you
Yeah.
and know like you're not just working around the clock like a robot. Like we have lives, we have feelings, we have emotions, and these are things that we experience, and we just have to be real with everybody. So from day one of like meeting somebody, I let them know like, hey, I'm here for you, and I want you to know like I am your person, I'm on your side, and I'm in your corner. Like I will be there to help you with talking with venues and having to maybe fight for you or things you need. But I'll be reasonable because a lot of these venues, they're my friends too. So let's like all come together and make an amazing day and be reasonable. And so that's like my whole thing of keeping like the exhaustion and all of that like separate, if you will, to really put in place what I'm here for and what I do and how much I can be there for you.
Event planning being like the fifth most stressful job, and you are also very detail oriented. How do you manage to like kind of keep yourself organized throughout this, what can be considered, I think, a chaotic process that might also have plenty of changes, as you mentioned, like, oh, we might be 10 minutes behind, or this happened, or this person didn't show up, or anything like that?
I have set boundaries very like young and early in my business to make sure that I'm not killing myself. So I don't have like regular days off like normal people will have, maybe 2 days off in a row or something like that. I don't, like, my husband gets Tuesdays off normally. That's what he gives himself, and he doesn't do anything. Like, he'll do things around the house, but he really takes, like, that is his Sabbath day, no work. And I don't know what that is, because as a business owner, I feel like we're just constantly going.
Yeah.
But I have set things in place. Like, I try to at least by 5 o'clock, you know, given certain circumstances, I try to at least around 4 and 5, you know, stop working. Because I would like time with my husband when he gets back home. Like, that is why I have my own business, to be able to make my own time. So if I can do that, then I will. I can say like COVID threw everybody off, obviously.
Absolutely.
For us, it completely threw off, I feel like, my drive to even move forward almost, because it's been a little hard to like get myself back up, because that is like really the only time that I've truly been thrown off of my groove, if you will. But also just seeing it as such a blessing that I have so much work, like, it truly is amazing. Now I get to add on an associate planner. So that has really like given me a drive to do a little better, because I'm getting more business. I need help. I need them to know what they're doing. So that has really motivated me and pushed me to continue forward with any like procedures that I need to get in place and things like that. Because as the owner, I can know what I'm doing like the back of my hand, but somebody new coming in, they don't know my processes. They don't know what to do in certain situations. So this is really giving me the opportunity to like nail it down and kind of get back into that. And knowing that my brides are relying on me. So I need to like kick myself and get back into it and really, you know, move forward. Like, it's hard because we're all kind of like coming out of this lull of a season. And then when I do experience those things, I love to travel. It's been hard to do that obviously recently, but honestly, towards the middle of 2020, I got to do a lot of road trips and things like that. And that is just so freeing to me. I love being in nature. Like, I'm not a nature girl, but I love seeing like God's creation. It just makes me feel so much peace and joy. Like, just we went to North Carolina twice in 2020, like towards the end, and once in August and another time in October. And it's just breathtaking to see the mountains that we don't get to see in Florida. Yeah. And just being somewhere else and clearing your mind and having conversations. Like, I usually travel with my husband, so we get to be together for hours on end, which is not like reality, honestly. The Gabe works as a director for Chick-fil-A, so his schedule is like, he's working at least 50 hours a week. My schedule is crazy. So really our one day, thank God he gets Sundays off. So our one day that we get like together is usually Sundays if I don't have a wedding. And, you know, half the time we're at church and the other half we're probably like doing lunch and stuff like that. So we just don't get as much time. So I love like those clarity times that we get together.
In what way are you currently working towards like healing yourself after such a heavy year? And now you said you can talk about it without breaking down, but along with all of the other, like, I mean, 2020 is heavy. It looked different for absolutely everybody. But what I loved also is that you can see the good out of that heavy year. Well, as you mentioned, you know, like now your business is booming and things are getting better, but like what led to that? And like, how did you get to that place after being, you know, unmotivated and having no desire to work with everything that happened?
It was almost just like, it didn't stop. Like, we could have been unmotivated as like business owners and as creatives because nothing was happening. Like, we couldn't do anything, and our life was kind of wrapped around doing all of the things. So as far as 2020 and having the shutdown and all of that and kind of getting back in our groove, I think everyone has been showing a little more grace, and everyone can, what is it? Oh, I'm thinking of the word. We can all empathize with each other, because we're all in it. We're all going through the exact same thing, the exact same emotions. Like, so being able to empathize with not only our clients, but other vendors, like that is huge, because like I'll go on Instagram and see one of my photographer friends, and she's like, you know, I'm going to be really candid here. Like, this is what I've been going through. And I'm like, this is the same thing I'm going through. Like, I'm so happy that I can, like, it sucks what we're going through, but I can also like know, like, I can call this girl up and talk through stuff, and maybe we can just help each other out with that. And then, you know, so that's been a great like help, and just everyone trying to like communicate and do what we can to stay in community through not seeing each other physically as well, has been really encouraging. Just doing our Zoom calls, doing our things, you know, it's not the same, but you know, now we're able to meet up with each other safely, and we've done different protocols, like doing our temperature checks and wearing bracelets that are red, green, and yellow. And, you know, to the extent of, will you do handshakes, or you're just like saying hi, you know, that kind of thing. So that's been really motivating, just everyone trying to team up and do our best with the circumstances and the heaviness. And then with my grandparents, just, I think the wedding industry as a whole, like my people, my tribe, if you will, just came through for me 1,000%. Like, I didn't know what to do. I mean, it was the worst experience of my life. Like, I didn't know how to process anything. I had not experienced death in that way. Like, I have, you know, my abuela passed away when probably 5 years ago, I think now. But then having like my grandpas pass away back to back, and just like on my dad's side, my grandfather was like the pillar. Like, he was everything to us. So thanking God that I had seen him. We had just went out north for my other grandfather, and we were able to see him before we left. And then he got to meet like my little sister, or my younger sister's son. So he got to meet like the first great grandkid, and just see, like, knowing that we have those memories, we have pictures with him, like all the things, like it was just, that gave me peace. And also knowing that he's in heaven, like he loved the Lord, and just that gave us so much peace in our hearts. And him just expressing that, like, he was okay, like he was ready to go, he's like, I'm at peace, you know, all of that gave everybody else comfort, at least through it. But I mean, it's like, it's still a thing, like we're still processing, I feel. So I was able to just pull back from my clients and things like that. Like, I had a wedding the week that I found out, and I had one of my planner friends was coming to Florida from Virginia, and she's like, listen, if you need me to step in and just run your wedding for you, I'll do it. And that was like, I just cried. I'm like, how can someone be so selfless and to run, like to step in for me at that point? And then even one of my other industry friends was like, hey, like, I know it's not a lot, but I have $100 in a flight ticket if you need to go. I'm like, the overflow of support that I got, and then from my church family, like it was just incredible. Like, I couldn't really talk too much about it, because I knew I was just gonna cry. Like, I couldn't verbally like talk about it. But you know, if I was texting somebody or sending voice messages to my friends, like they were just all super encouraging. And I couldn't have been more blessed to been allowed the time that I needed to take a step back from everything almost. I still ran my weddings because I needed to do something to take my mind off of it too. And I like to be busy. So running my wedding was a good thing. And then I had one the week after, directly after that too. So that it was hard to like, you know, do it and get through them, but also it was something that kept my mind off of it just for a little bit. But then I got to be with my family. Like, we spent a lot of time together those first few weeks of finding out, and then it kind of like led into Christmas time as well. So it was just good to be with people and have just the support that I really needed. And I just was blown away. Like, I couldn't have imagined almost like a better, if you will, grieving process, because I had so many loving people to just jump in and help me. It's very raw still, you know, but you know, everyone deals with grief differently, and we always have to find the silver lining in these things, because it's inevitable, you know, it's part of life, but it's also something that we just need to really find hope and peace in, and just hold on to everything that we've known about these people and just the mark that they've made in our lives, and just continue to honoring them in whatever way that may be, you know, that we see fit. So yeah.
But if you would like to share like one of your favorite memories with your grandfather, specifically the one that you said is like the pillar, or was the pillar of the family, and then I can place it somewhere. I mean, if you're okay with it, I think it'd be a cool.
You love tears. Oh goodness. I don't know. There's so many. I think that. So he was so funny. Like, he would always crack us up when he would visit with my grandma. They loved to argue. Not like, it was just spats, like stupid little arguments.
Bickering.
And when he would, so much bickering. Like, and they were Cape Verdean, so they spoke in Creole. They spoke English too, but he would come down and they would like have their rental car. They'd pick us up like as kids, and he never put a seatbelt on. I don't know why. Like, he just loved to like get my grandma going on that all the time. Like, she would remind him every single time. Like, I remember being 8-9 years old in Rhode Island and going home from church with them, and still like the same thing. Like, now we're fast forwarding, like, you know, over almost 10 years later, and he's still being a fool. So they'd always start like bickering with the car seat or the seatbelt, and then like directional wise, he'd be like, "Oh no, we're taking a left right here," and she's like, "No, the GPS says take a right," and like he'd just like look in the mirror like to look at us in the back and just laugh. Like, we knew he was just like pulling her. He was just pushing her buttons, and it was just that always like was something that stayed with us. Like, we almost like looked forward to him being like funny with my grandma. So that's like one, like, he just always knew how to joke. And my uncles during the funeral service just mentioned like some awesome like points about him, and one of the things that one of my uncles mentioned was like 3 things that like he's kind of displayed in his life, and one of them specifically was moderation. Everything in moderation, like the things we eat, the money we spend, everything in moderation. And that's like so big for us to really like remember about his life, because he was such a modest man in general, and he really did show us how to be moderate throughout his entire life. So those are some things. Everything else I'll just burst into tears about, but that's a couple different things about my grandpa. But he always knew how to make us laugh. He was the light of the room. You can see through like videos we have and pictures, like he's just always smiling super big. And he loved us so much. He always had like a twinkle in his eye, if you will, like seriously a twinkle, like for real. Like, he always teared up when he saw us, like every time we came to visit or we left, or even if we're there for like an hour, he'd just saying bye, he'd just get like, he was very emotional. We loved that about him. But that just made us almost like cherish him more, because he just was so loving, and we just always appreciated seeing him and seeing like that emotion from him, because we just knew that there was such a deeper level of love almost for us. So that's my little tidbit.